It always begins the same way, doesn't it? She looks at you not as you are, but as the version of you she imagines. And you feel it. That spark in her eyes, that quiet intensity. Is it admiration? Hope? Maybe it's something deeper, maybe it's hunger. You think you're being seen, really seen, but you're not. You're being studied, measured, scanned like an empty canvas she plans to paint her masterpiece on. But here's the brutal truth. The masterpiece, it was never about you. It was never meant to be you. Carl Jung warned us about this. And not with gentle, feel-good advice, but with the brutal, precise insight of a man who spent his life diving headfirst into the darkest corners of the human mind. Jung was obsessed with the unconscious, that huge, silent part of your psyche operating just beneath your awareness. And what he found there, it wasn't pretty. He discovered something wild about women, that they don't just fall for men, they fall for ideas of men, they fall for fantasies, they project. And the wildest part? Most of them don't even know they're doing it. You might think she's choosing you, but she's not. She's choosing a version of you she made up in her head. A psychological avatar she cast to play a role in the personal movie she's been writing since childhood. And when you stop playing the part, right? She doesn't rewrite the story, she just swaps out the actor. Jung had a name for this dynamic. The Animus, the inner masculine figure that lives inside every woman's psyche. And when that animus is unbalanced, undeveloped, or running unchecked, it turns into something dangerous. It can become a tyrant. It pushes women to chase chaotic men, ignore grounded ones, argue just to dominate, and speak with a moral certainty that isn't earned but projected. And look, Jung didn't sugarcoat any of this. He called it what it is, spiritual possession. That's when a woman doesn't even realize she's acting out someone else's script. She believes she's making choices freely, but she's actually being steered by a fantasy version of masculinity inside her own mind. And as for you, you fall for it. You step right into the trap. Because no one ever taught you how to spot projection. You mistake being desired for being understood. You confuse being wanted with being known. You hear her say, "You're different," and you believe her. But you're not different. You're just the next guy in line, cast to play a role in her internal drama. And when the fantasy wears thin, when the curtain drops, you're left wondering what you did wrong. Here's the truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped being a convincing character in someone else's script. Jung believed the only escape from this psychological stage play was through a process he called individuation. The journey of becoming a whole man, not a fantasy, not someone else's dream. A man who is fully integrated, self-aware, and grounded in his own truth. But let's be real, men never start that journey. Most of us are trained from a young age to chase validation, to be the nice guy, to perform for approval, to see our worth through the eyes of women. And so we repeat the same pattern over and over, like actors chasing applause in a play we never wrote. Individuation isn't pretty. It's not something you post about with a hashtag and a gym selfie. It's messy. It's painful. It means facing the weakest, most broken parts of yourself. The parts you'd rather pretend don't exist. It means taking full responsibility not just for your actions, but for your identity. Jung understood something that's hard for most men to hear. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. You don't earn your worth through love or attention. You earn it by facing the silence, by learning how to stand alone, awake, accountable, alive. Because a man who has truly looked into his own unconscious can't be seduced by a fantasy. He's not a puppet anymore. He's not waiting to be cast. He's the one writing the script now. Jung saw a tragic pattern in modern men. We bend ourselves, twist ourselves, shrink ourselves to become what we think women want. We call it compromise. We call it love. But Jung called it something far more honest, self-betrayal. And that betrayal runs deep. The more you suppress your own inner truth just to win affection, the more you lose yourself. You don't even realize it's happening. One day you wake up and you're not a man anymore. You're a mask, a shell. All performance, no substance. And here's the ironic twist. Women feel this. They can smell it on you. That desperate energy, that need to be liked. And the more you bend, the more obedient you become. The more you try to make her happy by playing her perfect man, less attraction she feels. Because here's something Jung knew, but most men don't. The feminine doesn't crave comfort. It craves mystery. It craves depth. It craves a man who can't be fully pinned down. The moment you make yourself too available, too predictable, too soft, you don't become more lovable. You become forgettable. But here's the real tragedy. You fear being alone more than you fear being fake. You'd rather play a part than face silence. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. Jung taught that until a man can embrace that solitude, until he can stand tall with no applause, no audience, no approval, he's not free. He's still trapped. He said individuation is a path for the brave, because it demands that you let every false version of yourself die. You have to let it all burn. All the personas you wore to be liked, all the roles you played to be loved. Only then can something real emerge. And here's the part no one wants to talk about. Individuation is lonely, deeply, sometimes crushingly lonely. Because once your eyes open, once you start seeing through the games, the masks, the lies we call normal, you can't unsee it. You see how fake it all is. You see how people live in stories they never questioned. And when you try to talk about it, they'll mock you, call you cold, dismiss you as too intense. They'll say you are the problem. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror. And people hate mirrors when they show them something they don't want to face. Jung knew this. He studied people who ran from their own shadows, the parts of themselves they were ashamed of. And he saw how often women, especially in modern cultures, are taught to avoid those shadows altogether. They're raised being told they're perfect, that their feelings are always valid, that they are whole, emotional, intuitive goddesses by default. But Jung didn't buy into that. He said the greatest danger to a woman isn't external, it's the unconscious animus inside her, that voice in her mind that acts with false certainty, that moral superiority that isn't rooted in truth but in projection. And if she doesn't confront it, she becomes ruled by it, and every man she meets becomes the canvas for her warong, that isn't really with him but with herself. But let me tell you something that nobody talks about enough. This path, it's lonely, like soul-shakingly lonely, because when you start waking up, really waking up, you begin to see things that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. You start spotting the masks people wear, the roles they play, the little performances they put on just to feel wanted or important or safe. And when you try to talk about it, to share what you've seen, what you've felt, they recoil. They don't want the truth. They want comfort. So what do? They push you away. They call you arrogant, distant, cold, too much in your head. You stop being fun at parties. You stop being easy to control. And now, you're the problem. But the truth? You're not the problem. You're the mirror. And mirrors are terrifying to people who aren't ready to see their own reflection. Carl Jung knew this. He spent decades helping people face the ugliest parts of themselves, their shadow, as he called it. That dark part of the psyche where we shove everything we don't want to admit we are. Insecure, jealous, vengeful, weak. And while Jung didn't single out women, he did warn about how certain cultures raise them. See, a lot of women grow up being told they're already complete, that they're intuitive, that they're spiritually ahead of men, that they just know better. Sounds empowering, right? But Jung didn't buy it. He warned that this kind of unconscious glorification, this "you're already perfect" narrative can stop women from doing the very work required to become whole. He said the real danger wasn't outside of the meat, was inside. It was their animus, their inner masculine, the voice inside that pretends to be logical, authoritative, wise, but actually just projects unresolved issues onto every man they meet. Think about that for a second. You thought you were her knight, her savior, her one and only. You thought that if you just loved her harder, gave more, proved yourself day after day, she'd finally see you. But that's not how projection works. Projection doesn't fall in love with you. It falls in love with an image of phantom. And when you stop matching that image, when you show even the tiniest crack in the mask, you don't just disappoint her. You shatter her entire illusion. And she won't understand what happened. She won't see it as a psychological event. She'll call it betrayal. She'll say, you changed. That you failed her. But you didn't. You were just never him to begin with. You were never the fantasy. And that's why she's mad. Jung called this betrayal inevitable when people refuse to take ownership of their inner world. You didn't trick her. You didn't deceive her. You simply stopped being the character she subconsciously cast you to play. And what's worse? Most men will never figure that out because no one teaches you to look inward. No one tells you, hey man, maybe you keep getting caught in these patterns because you're playing a role you were never meant to play. Instead, you get told to man up, try harder, just find the right woman. But Jung would look at you straight in the eyes and ask, and why did you let yourself be chosen by her in the first place? That question cuts deep, doesn't it? Because it shifts the responsibility back onto you. You weren't just a victim, you were a volunteer. You willingly auditioned for a part in a play that wasn't yours. Why? Because facing your own emptiness, your own sense of incompleteness, felt more terrifying than pretending to be someone you're not. And this is the moment where most men check out. This is the edge. This is where the responsibility begins. But if you stay with it, if you don't scroll away, if you don't numb it out with distractions, you'll realize something. Jung didn't offer quick fix advice. He didn't promise fame, power, or love if you followed 3 easy steps. He offered something much harder and much more real. A path. A brutal, humbling, liberating path called individuation. It's the journey of becoming whole not by adding more, but by removing everything that isn't you. Every role, every lie, every performance you put on just to be liked, loved, needed. And here's the real kicker. The voice in your head, the one that says you're nothing without her, that voice will fight to survive. It'll scream that you need her, that no man can live without a woman's love, that validation is survival. But Jung's work whispers something more dangerous. It says the man who can stand without her, without applause, without approval, without being needed, is the man who is finally free. Free from projection, free from performance, free from the exhausting cycle of pretending to be someone else. And here's where the magic happens. Once you hit that level of wholeness, you don't become distant or heartless. You don't turn into some cold, cynical shell. You become real, rooted, grounded, fully present in your own skin. And the paradox? That's when women start to feel truly drawn to you. Not because you need them, but because you don't. You're not grasping, not chasing, not clinging. And that changes everything, because you finally understand. She's on her own journey too, her own path. And you can't walk it for her. You can't fix her. You can't be the answer to wounds you didn't create. You can only be what Jung was an example. A man who has walked through his own darkness and come out on the other side. A mirror for anyone brave enough to look. Most people won't, but a rare few will. And those few, they'll thank you for it. That's the difference between being loved for the role you play and being respected for the man you've become. And here's where it gets even more wild. When you finally stop performing, people get uncomfortable. Your presence becomes disruptive. Why? Because you no longer fit into their neat little categories. You can't be boxed in. And they'll call you names to try and bring you back down. Too cold, too distant, too intense. But that's not what they're really saying. What they're really saying is this: you can't be controlled anymore. You've stepped off the stage, you've stopped reading their script, you've stopped being the character and started being a man. A real one. And that kind of man is dangerous. So, let's get real for a second. Dangerous doesn't mean violent, doesn't mean cruel. doesn't mean cold-blooded. It means untouchable. It means centered. It means you don't fold when the world tries to bend you. You're dangerous because you've tasted solitude and made peace with it. You've looked into the abyss of who you are without anyone to impress. And you didn't flinch. You stayed. And when you do that, you stop needing. And when you stop needing, you start choosing. You start choosing who enters your life not based on how they make you feel in the moment, but on who they are when no one's watching. You start seeing people as they are, not as you wish they would be. That's when the whole game changes. You're no longer looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to walk beside you. No more rescuing. No more being rescued. Just two whole people walking their own paths, side by side if, and only if, the energy aligns. And if it doesn't, you let go. No drama, no ego, no need to chase or prove anything. Because you know, wholeness isn't found in someone else. It's built brick by brick, in the quiet moments of truth you face alone. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. So what? I'm just supposed to give up on love? Nah. I'm saying stop settling for the counterfeit version of it. The kind that's built on projection, on fantasy, on trauma bonding and unconscious contracts. That's not love, that's survival masquerading as romance. What Jung taught us, what most people still don't want to hear, is this. Real love isn't about filling holes. It's about sharing fullness. And fullness doesn't come from validation. It comes from integration. It comes from knowing your shadow so well that no one can use it against you. From being so honest with yourself that manipulation stops working. From being so internally stable that even if the world collapses around you, you stay standing. That's what individuation is. It's not a buzzword. It's not trendy. It's the ancient, slow, painful, liberating work of becoming the man you were always meant to be before the world told you who you should be. So, if you're here, if you've made it this far, then let this just be another video you forget in an hour. Ask yourself, what role am I still playing? Where am I still chasing validation? Who am I still performing for? Because the moment you answer that honestly, the real journey begins. And no, it won't be easy. You'll lose people. You'll question everything. You'll feel like a ghost in your own life for a while. But then, you'll start to feel something deeper than comfort. You'll feel clarity, power, peace. Not because you found the right woman, but because you finally found you. And once that happens, brother, everything changes. It. Fade to black. Soft music fades in. Voiceover. This isn't for everyone. This isn't meant to go viral. This is for the ones who are ready to see. End screen with text. Jung didn't save people. He handed them a mirror. And sometimes that's all you need.